My husband's family kicked us out after the funeral, but I was hiding a secret that could ruin them. The day of my husband's funeral should have been about grief, closure, and honoring the man I loved. Instead, it became the day I realized how cruel and calculating his family truly was. The church bells were still echoing when I stood by his coffin, clutching the folded flag that was handed to me. My husband, Daniel, had been the love of my life, my partner for nearly a decade. He wasn't perfect, but he was kind, gentle, and nothing like the family he came from. His parents, wealthy landowners with an old money attitude, had always made it clear that they thought I was beneath them. They never forgave him for marrying a woman who came from a modest background, without a last name that opened doors. I endured their disapproving looks through our entire marriage, hoping that one day they would see how much Daniel loved me. But on the day of his funeral, they showed me their true faces. After the service, when guests had begun to leave, Daniel's mother approached me. She was dressed impeccably in black lace, her pearls gleaming, her expression cold. She didn't offer comfort. She didn't offer kind words. Instead, she said flatly, "You need to leave. This house, this family, this life, it was never yours. It dies with him." I blinked at her in disbelief. "Excuse me, you heard me," she snapped. "You and your things will be out by tomorrow. Daniel's estate belongs to his blood, not to you. You were tolerated because he insisted, but now that he's gone, we won't let you leech off our family any longer." Her words cut deeper than any knife. Before I could respond, Daniel's father chimed in, his voice booming. "You're finished here, girl. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." The guests who overheard pretended not to notice, but I saw their awkward glances. Humiliation burned my cheeks. My husband had just been buried, and they were already treating me like an intruder. That night, as I packed the last of my belongings from the grand house Daniel and I had once shared, I cried until my body ached. Their cruelty was unbearable, but they had underestimated me. Because I was holding onto a secret, one that could unravel everything they held dear. A week before Daniel passed, while sorting through paperwork during his illness, I had stumbled across documents hidden away in his study. At first, I thought they were just financial statements. But as I read, my hands trembled. His family's wealth, their spotless reputation, their carefully curated image, it was all built on lies. Daniel had uncovered it himself months earlier. His father had been embezzling money from the family trust, moving it through shell companies. His mother was complicit, helping launder funds under the guise of charity donations. Worse, they had used Daniel's name on several of the transfers without his knowledge, making him look like a willing participant. Daniel had been devastated when he found out, but too weak from illness to fight them. He told me, with tears in his eyes, "If anything happens to me, don't let them get away with it." And so, I hadn't. I copied every document, every email, every fraudulent transaction, and kept them safe. As I stood outside the estate gates after being thrown out, suitcase in hand, I vowed that they would regret underestimating me. At first, I considered exposing them immediately. But grief still weighed heavily on me. I needed time to gather myself, to mourn Daniel properly. I moved into a small apartment and quietly built my case. I contacted lawyers, journalists, and financial investigators. Slowly, piece by piece, I laid out the puzzle Daniel had started. Meanwhile, his family flaunted their power as though nothing had changed. They spread rumors about me, whispering that I had married Daniel for his money, that I was trying to take what wasn't mine. People began to look at me differently, and the sting of isolation grew sharper. But I stayed silent, patient, because I knew the storm I was preparing would be worth it. The turning point came 3 months later at a charity gala hosted by Daniel's parents. They stood on stage, smiling for the cameras, announcing a large donation that, I knew, was nothing but stolen money disguised as generosity. That night, I released everything. The files went public. News outlets, investigators, and even the authorities received copies of the documents. Social media lit up with scandal. By morning, the once revered family name was in shambles. Their accounts were frozen, their reputation destroyed. The same society that once applauded them now turned its back in disgust. And when reporters asked me for a statement, I simply said, "They kicked me out with nothing after I buried my husband." But I carried the truth with me. This is for Daniel. The fallout was swift and brutal. Investigations were launched, lawsuits filed. Their empire, built on greed, crumbled brick by brick. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Of course, it wasn't easy. Revenge never heals grief. I still missed Daniel every single day, and no amount of justice could fill the void he left behind. But in honoring his wish and exposing the corruption, I found a strange sense of peace. I moved forward with my life, not as the widow they tried to erase, but as a woman who stood her ground, even when the odds were stacked against her. And the lesson I learned is one I want everyone listening to remember. Sometimes, the people who treat you as though you're powerless are only revealing their own fear of being exposed. Never let anyone convince you that you're small. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is holding the loudest truth. My husband's family thought they could erase me the moment he was gone. Instead, I erased the empire they built on lies. And in that, I found the strength to carry Daniel's memory with dignity, while they were left to drown in the ruin of their own making.